Bring in the writer of the article on Deadspin, Tim Burke, who joins us now. First of all, congrats on doing some investigative reporting there, Tim. How difficult was it to sort of sort everything out here?
Thanks for having me on, DP. And first and foremost, 5'11", 185. How did we come across the story? Well, we got an email. Jack Dickey and I got an email last week saying, I think there's something fishy about Lene Kekua, Manti Teo's girlfriend. You guys should look into this. Mm-hmm. We get a lot of crackpot emails at Deadspin, but we decided to check this one out. And the first thing that we went to was Google, right? Google the name. And a curious thing turns up when you Googled the name. All of the hits were references to her being Manti Teo's dead girlfriend. There wasn't anything else. There wasn't any reference to her existing anywhere. No school records, no sports teams, no online profiles. There was absolutely nothing, and that's really curious for that to happen. So we continued sort of investigating and doing the kind of things that we looked at. We looked at the media reports to learn exactly what people had said about her, and that's when it became really obvious to Dickey and I that the stories that were being told by the media about Lene Kekua were not consistent. In fact, we found 5 different days that media sources reported she died, and that's
wow.
So when you see that kind of those conflicts and those contradictions and those discrepancies, even just whether or not she attended Stanford or graduated from Stanford, where she was buried. That really throws up a red flag. Even just one or two of these conflicts of information should have thrown a red flag. When you group them all together, it's punching you in the face that something isn't right about this story.
Notre Dame reaction when you called them? When did you call them, and what did they say?
Well, we called a couple different individuals. I called a number that I had for Manti, and it wasn't accepting calls. We called the football office, football communication office, and asked them to please respond, and they haven't responded yet. And that's sort of where I'm a little sore with Pat Forty, I guess, and I like Pat a lot. But he said in his article on Yahoo last night that we shouldn't have published until they got back to us. We're Deadspin. People generally don't get back to us. So were we supposed to just never publish the story because they didn't respond to our inquiry? That seems sort of impossible. So, we asked for comment. We didn't get it. We published all the facts that we had. We were confident in those facts. And now Notre Dame has its own spin machine on, and I don't think the real truth, now that they've placed themselves in a position, is ever going to come out.
Yeah, because they're all in now with Manti Teo, but I'm just trying to sort this out using logic, and I don't even know if you can apply logic to this as to how it started to where we are today. But if you do talk to Teo, what's the one question you want answered here from him?
When did you find out? Well, I want to know when he found out, because and he said in his statement that he found out on, I think, December 26th. But there are a lot of questions about that. If I had another question, it would be, why didn't you ever correct any of the stories that were printed about you that you knew weren't true? Why did you let your father tell the South Bend Tribune that you met in 2009 after the Stanford football game? And why did you let him tell the newspaper that you used to meet her in Hawaii when she would come visit you? Why didn't you correct any of these stories that led to this legend becoming, because as well as I do, Dan, that when the media reports something, we can go back and say, oh, it wasn't true, but the fact that it was reported makes it part of the truth.
Yep.
And you can't ever erase that.
What did you think of Notre Dame's press conference last night with their athletic director?
Wow, I would have not done that if I were them. In fact, I think if I were Notre Dame and Manti Teo, I would not have responded to this at all, because what's best for him and I said this last night. It's not really a very good thing. Manti Teo can come out and say, yeah, I was duped. I was fooled for a year, and I was the victim of this terrible hoax. Well, that doesn't really reflect well on you, Manti, as being a very smart or intelligent person to have fallen for this for that long. Is that the image you're trying to portray to NFL general managers and scouts? I don't think so. And the more that this stays in the news cycle, the more that's what people are going to be talking about. So no matter what response, and now I guess he's having this press conference, that's going to continue the questions. And the second reason it's a bad idea is because every time that they try to explain something, it's more information to compare against, the discrepancies that we have before. And, Notre Dame says that they conducted this private investigation when I know for a fact that the people who were closest to knowing what's going on, the ones that we talked to, they didn't talk to. So who were they talking to? They were talking. Did they have Keystone cops running this operation?
What's next for you guys? Because obviously the story is still fluid here. So what are you trying to find out, and from whom? What direction you go?
Well, Dan, from the beginning, I really wanted to know exactly how complicit the media was in advancing this story, because knowing that the likelihood of getting a real answer about whether Manti Teo was in on it or not is unlikely. So how can we look at what the media did and how they screwed up and kept this story going? And that's what our next piece that'll be up on Tom today is about. It's about every single mistake made by the media. And this isn't just small newspapers like a paper in South Bend. And major writers who I respect a lot, from major, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, people that I think are really good at their jobs screwed up on this. And as you said in the lead into this, people are just trying to, cover their butts. And I think at some point you have to say, well, it's a responsibility for you to do fact checking. And it should not be Deadspin's responsibility to make sure that everything that's published about sports is true. And I think that's the lasting legacy of this is people doing better, hopefully better journalism.
Do you think Manti Teo was complicit?
I have a hard time believing that someone like him could be fooled for that long by someone that he knew, to thinking that she was a real person. He had an incentive to be in on this. I can't find for the life of me any incentive for a person to execute this complicated hoax against Manti Teo for so long that would have absolutely consumed that person's life to portray his girlfriend at all hours of the day. I don't know why anybody would do that. So and when he asked me if I think that I did it, I don't know, but there's a lot more reasons for him to have been in on it than for him to have been, the victim.
Do you believe that Notre Dame had this, or ESPN had the Notre Dame story prior to the national title game and sat on it?
I don't know. That's a really fantastic question. I don't know why they would lie about that. And certainly if, it's in ESPN's best interest not to distract people away from the game, right?
Yep.
So if that's true, that's in line with ESPN's way of thinking and their sort of, corporate politics about how they intertwine the editorial versus the entertainment parts of that business. If so, that's a remarkably lucid and honest response from ESPN. But again, they didn't talk to the same people that we talked to either. So I'm somewhat skeptical about that.
Tim, good work. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, Tim Burke, Deadspin.